Hi, so this is blog 4, and I want to talk about where I am at this point. Hi, so this is blog 4, and I definitely want to talk about where I am as this being the end of the course in this semester. And so I do want to also include the articles that I read. And so talking about theories, as writers, we all have theories. As educators, we do as well. And so the theories can help you discover your own voice and your own beliefs about the world. And I think early on, as an educator, when you did the foundations of education, they really wanted you to pick, what's your theory on education? How do you feel you're going to be as an educator? And, what do you think is important to focus on in your classroom? And so I always liked the idea of, teaching to the whole child, and, you're teaching to that individual child and their unique learning needs. And so that sums up, a lot of what my theory is, and it's where it got me where I am today, because I do feel like I'm always, trying to fight for the rights of my students, making sure that they get the best that they can out of school, because as we know with recent mandates, education, sometimes it can do a much better job. And so with the students that I work with, they're not only struggling with their everyday life, they're struggling with, getting through school, making sure they're, on grade level, that sort of thing. But as we know, there's just so much more that goes into it. And so, thinking about that individual student is important, but it's not just, like I said, what they're learning, it's their mental health, their physical health, their emotional health, all of those things. And so when I'm trying to reach that child, I'm always thinking of, every area that I can possibly, help. And so reading the article by Cindy Cruz was very powerful. And so she was really wanting to speak on writers who are women of color, and just talking about feminist writers and how, their writing can be censored. It's almost like, am I allowed to write? And so you think in 2024 that is not a thing, but it still is. And she was saying, towards the end of the article, that it's still gotten to where, you may not see as much of, writing from females on the shelves. And she was just talking about like kind of collectively having a voice. But it not just for women, but also women of color. Those are the voices that, are really definitely not getting their word out there as much as they could. And so, it was talking about where she takes off her Gora and she can see in all directions. And I'm reading my notes as I, because I'm really bad about when I read an article, like, there's things like, oh, I love that. But if I don't write it down, I have to be able to, gather my thoughts in that way. But she could see in all directions. And it was also talking about thinking about it as like a writer, be able to see in all directions. But the other thing was talking about, how she's writing about the youth, and how they are witnesses and survivors of great trauma and oppression. It's like, instead of feeling sorry for them, just think about how powerful their true life experience can be. And then I thought about it and I remembered, the story I read, Evicted, and just thinking about how powerful those testimonies were. And, rather than thinking about the people that he got to know and interviewed as victims, you think, okay, this person has actually, played such a big role in his research, but also, what are we learning from these people? And it's a lot. And so thinking about everyone having a voice is so important. And it does inspire me. You know, I sit and I kind of got to a writer's block. I kind of hit a wall in another class I was in because I was trying to write an article that basically was, it was called Research to Practice. And so you're trying to basically offer strategies for teachers to learn or use based on research. Well, I have like tons of ideas, but it was very hard for me to kind of single out where I wanted to go with it. And so rather than just like coming up with a strategy, I was like, okay, I want to fix everything. So what's wrong with education? Well, a lot of things. So I guess I went back to myself and how my teaching has evolved. You know, I think I mentioned in previous vlogs how I wasn't going to be a teacher. I was going to be a counselor. And so that kind of got me where I am because I'm always thinking in that counselor mindset. And so, but thinking about, I'm trying to, almost lost my thought. Okay, hold on. I got it. So think about where I came from as a teacher. You know, you go from being able to use your creativity to having to use curricula that's mandated. And so that's where I was thinking, because I remember like my first year, it was like kind of the first several months into it, it was like, okay, here's the books, here's the script, read this, have them do these assignments. That's it. You know, we don't have time to read other books, you know. And I'm like, what? Like, what if it's like, you know, getting to the holidays or a specific, you know, season or something, and I want to read something fun? It's like, you don't have time. And so I took that, and the first couple of years, I kind of followed it, and I was like, you know, I was like, when they come in, I'm going to just be exactly reading straight from this text, you know. And I was like, okay, wait, like, they could learn a lot from being exposed to other books. You know, they need books in their hands. They need books that they can read for that success, but also kids love for you to read to them. You know, I remember with my 6th grade, my first year, I picked up a book. It was about lions. You know, it looked almost like a book for 2nd grade. They were so engaged. And I was like, this is a picture book. But like their attention was so much more to that book than it was to the literature books that, you know, we had to teach them. Anyway, so going from that moment, almost, you know, 14 years later, and now here I am in special education, which I love this gift because I can, you know, kind of teach what I want them to know. Not what I want them to know, but what they should know and what I think would benefit that particular child sometimes in that particular moment. So summing it all up, I just think that, you know, I'm glad that I've been able to see other people kind of like fighting for kind of the same things I'm fighting for. And it's equality in life, equality in education. And so I forgot to mention what I wrote my paper on, but it was play-based learning. And just basically my thing is like making school interesting and making the kid, or not making, but allowing the kids a buy-in and having them interested in what they're learning, to me is so much more powerful and authentic than, you know, the way they're basically just learning to be successful on their tests. So I've really enjoyed this semester. The feedback you've given me has like given me confidence, especially when I've been, you know, kind of dealing with other classes that were challenging. I would read the positive comments and it just made me feel a whole lot better. And I don't know if I'm really as great as some of the positive feedback I got, but you are inspiring me and I appreciate it. And I hope to one day meet you in person in the future. Thank you so much. Goodbye.